Savage. What's going on, Savages? Welcome to another episode of the Savage Snowflake podcast with me, Papa Jeff. How are ya? It's your dad, it's your orator, it's your dictator, it's your listener, it's your lover, it's your lecturer, and your diligent student. Good to have you guys back. Apologies for the break. I realised that it's been almost 4 weeks since the last episode. Shame. It's Game of Thrones. It's an old dated reference. It's what it is. Like, don't judge it. Just love it. I've got another guest for you today, an incredibly talented man. Before I do that, I just want to say thank you very much to all of the patrons online. I appreciate you guys for supporting the podcast. If you're not doing so yet, patreon.com/Savage Snowflake. That's patreon.com/Savage Snowflake. Check it out. There's a whole load of different tiers there. If you want to get some lovely kickbacks, maybe handwritten postcards. I'll do Skype sessions with you live every month. You get access to the private Discord, etc., etc. There's a whole load of great things there, and you can donate as little as $1 a month, all the way up to $50. I think is the top tier. So make sure you check it out. Also, make sure to follow me at Jeff Leach on social media. And now, without further ado, let me introduce my guest. This funny man sitting right here with his gorgeous bearded face, looking like Jesus' second or third coming. Who knows? This is the new and improved Jesus. Mike Falzone, stand-up comedian, YouTuber, also has a wildly popular podcast, one with his wife, called this. Welcome to our podcast. Yeah, and then you have another podcast as well,
Dynamic Banter.
And that's not how we met, not through the podcasting world. We actually met doing stand-up together. Oh no, we met first on Chrissy Mayer's show.
Yes, we did.
On Compound Media.
Right before the stand-up happened.
Dude, that was so weird that we'd never met each other, and then in one day we ended up doing a live podcast or a live radio TV show thing, and then doing a stand-up in the evening. And I think I officially gave you the title, the only YouTuber who should ever be allowed to do stand-up comedy.
I appreciate that. I don't know how true that is, but I appreciate it.
I mean, name me another YouTuber who's good at stand-up.
Bo Burnham.
All right, but that's musical comedy. Yeah. Musical comedy? It's like, I mean, it's a bit of a different.
I think he's so smart, man. He's
very
so smart.
Very smart and very talented, but also, you know, he's not a straight stand-up.
I think only because he doesn't like it. He doesn't seem to like straight stand-up that much.
Okay.
He's more of a song and dance man, is how I always saw him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's his brand, isn't it? Sitting down behind a piano and going, hey, I got a little song about something. Monkeys are great when you touch their balls. And then, you know, I remember his first...
You're giving him no credit.
I'm giving him credit. He's a very talented guy. I remember that first... You remember that his first video that blew him up?
Yeah, like when he used to do it in his attic. Yeah.
In a little attic with the loft, his loft bedroom with that kind of sliding thing. And he sat there with his little keyboard like, okay. And it was very much the white nerdy rapping guy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, he hasn't deviated from that too much. He's got his brand, he's got his niche, and he's stuck with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know how he'd get on doing 15 to an hour in a comedy club on a Saturday night. Do you think he'd do great?
I think people would be really excited to see him. I just like him very much. I think he's so smart that he'd be able to figure it out if he really wanted to do it.
All right, fuck it. Bo Burnham and you are
we're not supposed to be nice
two...
on this one.
No, we're 100% meant to be nice. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can be nice and supportive of people. I like being supportive of other comics. And I do think he's very talented. I can't do what he does.
Yeah, same.
However... I don't know, man. I think you need a different kind of energy.
To just drop into a room and do 15 minutes.
Thank you.
To be
on a
able
Saturday
to
night when people are a bit boozy, late night show, I think Bo Burnham will get eaten alive.
Okay.
Whereas you did that show in the daytime, I didn't know you were a stand-up as well.
You were skeptical.
Dude,
I understand.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
I wasn't happy that day. Could you feel how... I hope I didn't come off as rude or disinterested.
I didn't pay that much attention. That was a very new setting for me.
Yeah.
Me and Chrissy went to college together.
So we should explain. This is Compound Media. There's
a
podcast network called Compound Media, the home of free speech.
Uh-huh.
A few right-wing ideals over there.
Is that what happens there?
I mean, some of the shows are a bit they're not necessarily conservative, but they're a bit it's definitely a platform where people like to make the jokes you're not meant to make. You know, they're very much attacking
pushing
PC culture.
The shock jock type.
I'm definitely exactly. It's all shock content, and I present the libtard cuck voice on it. You know, that's why they booked me, really.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute, we should hear him out about pronouns.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, fuck you, dude.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm probably not the right guy to talk to about pronouns, but certainly, yeah, but exactly. I'll be like, you know, like let's try and find a happy medium for everyone, and they'll be a bit like, no, fuck these SJW piece of shit.
So cool about how people who don't really, I don't want to say anything too divisive up top, but I just hate how close everyone is and how everyone is super eager to drive a wedge in between as many different people as possible.
That's what, not just politics, that's what the social climate has become.
It's too bad.
What identifies you as just your thing? How do we separate you into your box, your culture? And I think that's happening. I've actually talked about this a huge amount with previous guests, but also with my girlfriend. And I was talking to a guy, a black friend, a new friend I just made, a black guy, gay black guy from England who now lives out here. And I was asking him, I was like, how have you found coming to America? Because in England, he and I come from the same town. We were born in the same town. We never met each other before. Same town. And then we moved to East London around the same time. And he and I were talking about how there's racism, but we're very much differentiated by class in America. It's about money.
Yeah.
You know, so I grew up with black kids, Pakistani kids, Bangladeshi kids. Like, we were all fucking poor. We were working class.
Yeah.
Not poor, working class. And trying to get into a middle class way of life. That's what our parents were, all the ideals of our parents, right?
Yeah.
And when I came to America, it doesn't matter that everyone's poor. Everyone still hates each other for the color of their skin or what religion they are. It's so, everything is subculture and sectioned out in America.
It's almost like if we were at war, we'd be like, all right, everyone, we're Americans. Let's get them.
That's the only thing that unifies Americans.
Yeah.
Is war with foreign entities.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
It is. It sucks, doesn't it?
I also don't know enough to like hold a very lengthy conversation about it. I never want to speak outside my understanding of the thing.
Okay.
I just know how I feel.
Right?
That's all I have, really. You can take it or leave it.
Well, it was interesting chatting to him because I was going like, yeah, have you experienced the same thing? He was like, oh yeah, absolutely. He goes, the way that I would banter, like he was making fun of himself. Like, he sent me a text going to say like, oh, here's my number, mate. And he was like, oh, here's my number, bruv. This is the big lip darky from your hometown.
Holy shit.
And I was like, whoa. And I was like, fucking hell, bruv. I was like, don't say that in America to
Is
anyone.
it racist to even like this?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't send him like a thumbs up. Like, but I hearted it.
Is
Jeff
there a
loves
neutral
this.
emoji? Like the lady like this? Okay.
Leaving that one to you. I'm not going to touch that shit. No, but honestly, it was a real moment of like, wow, like that kind of joke. Now, I would, even in England, I would never have said that joke to one of my black friends. But they would say it to me and make fun of their own shit.
It's
and
your place to listen.
I would go, well, at least you got lips, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And make fun of my shit.
Yeah.
Or I go, you know, well, at least when we go sit down for dinner, I know you're going to season it. Do you know what I mean? Just small shit. And there's almost like a lovely breakdown of these differences, because what we're doing is laughing through those differences to find the unifying similarities.
Yeah.
America doesn't seem remotely, especially now politically.
I mean, it's like you got to be super close with somebody to have there never be any kind of a question what your intention on your comments are.
Thank you.
That's and that takes a long time
way to describe it.
That takes a long time to get to that place with another individual.
Is your little light flashing, or is it okay?
It's just okay.
It's solid. Okay,
is this
good.
supposed to be?
No, I was worried you muted it. You got such a lovely, sweet voice. I'm gonna bump you up a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me turn you.
My laugh is boisterous. Just don't say anything funny.
Yeah, you have to laugh like you have to do it like voiceover. Right? You have to go. Anyway, as I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Well, tell me about the format of you and your wife's podcast then. How did that come
We just talk. Recently, it's gotten a lot better because I'll go into it with notes. So they're like 5-6 bullet points that we definitely, because we talk to each other all the time.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that makes the show.
Hope so, right?
Yeah. I mean, I pray to God that keeps happening. We never become a 70-year-old couple that fucking is just tired of each other and hates each other so much.
Yeah.
But I think what makes that show enjoyable and what's made it enjoyable for the past like 7 or 8 years or how long we've been doing it is that we love talking to each other so much. And like, I'm a comedian and she's a hairdresser, but she has the best personality of anyone
So about the same
I've ever
level
met.
of possibilities for both of you. In
Same
your
level of
careers,
income for sure.
Yeah.
And she's just the shit, and I respect her. She's such a great judge of character, and she's Albanian. And
We
her,
get it, man. You love her. We get it.
yeah, she's Albanian. She came from like a very not easy upbringing.
Yeah.
Like they,
How sexy is that?
very much so.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about it in bed all the time.
My chick, same thing. I could never date. I don't think I could ever date a woman. Well,
Who's
I
had an
always joke
easy
and say-
come up.
Yeah, I was actually what I've previously been saying is that now that I date a woman of color, I can never date a white chick again.
Sure.
Not in this country.
There's
anyway.
more to them.
Just a different set of life experiences.
Yeah.
That I identify with more as a, sort of working class boy from London.
Yeah. Dude, people
An immigrant,
appreciate, you had your own stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and people, you develop a very different, very admirable personality and set of values when you had to kick through some barriers to have a normal life.
What was your start in the world of comedy? Because obviously you've come from the YouTube background. Mm-hmm. Was that the first foray into entertainment for you?
No, I was a musician long before YouTube even existed.
Well,
Yeah.
What kind of music?
All different kinds, mostly rock, and then kind of John Mayer pop by myself type stuff.
Oh, I'm so glad you moved on from that.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I mean, I was acoustic guitar guy in college, and I'm not gonna try to pretend that I wasn't.
Were you acoustic guitar guy who played Eagle Eye Cherry, Save Tonight, round campfires, on your summer break and
I
stuff?
can't remember a fire.
You did it, didn't you? You did
Everything
it.
else was there, yeah. In the quad, I was guitar in the quad guy
Hey,
for sure.
We're going to go down to the quad. I'm going to play some guitar.
Yeah. Hey guys, I told you to keep your frisbee out of my area. But I will never regret any of that stuff because it made me want to write about interesting things. I wrote about all the mundane, trite, this girl doesn't like me. I wrote about that a million times. And then the cool thing that came out of that, that I would never regret ever is being in the corner of a deli playing for 3 hours for a bunch of people who didn't give a shit that I was there. So that's where all my crowd work stuff, and a lot of people shit on crowd work, but I pride myself on it. I love it so much.
That's why you're a good stand-up comedian. Oh, by the way, I didn't finish that story.
I'm also a stand-up comedian.
You're a stand-up comic. Well, yeah, I mean, I said that in the top. But I saw you that night,
Yeah.
and that day we went into that show on Compound Media. I wasn't annoyed. I wasn't in a bad mood. But when I got there, it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be in terms of, I've done a lot of shows on that network. And it felt a bit more wishy-washy. So I was a bit like, okay, I don't really know where this is going. Because she was discussing this big drama
she had a falling
she'd
out
had
with a
with
porn
some
star.
porn actress
Yeah.
on a show. So I understood we had to talk about that. But I felt like most of the show was dedicated to that, which was a bit frustrating for...
I felt bad for
Three
her
comics.
because of that. Because I was like, you could tell she didn't want to be in that situation.
Sure.
And then she dedicated the first 15 minutes to the... in my
It
head, I was like,
half an hour-
it's your
half the
show.
Half the show was about this fucking miserable porn actress who doesn't know how to take a joke.
Yeah.
And I anyway just got to the point where I was just after I watched a clip and I'm just sitting there and I'm looking off and I looked a bit rude and I felt a bit rude upon reflection.
I would love to watch it back and watch you be rude.
I just kind of looked a little disinterested in what was going on because I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a fucking shit about some porn actress getting upset because
Right.
Rich Voss said, "Oh, anybody can do porn these days." You know what I mean? It's like.
Right. You're there for Chrissy because Chrissy invited you. She's a
I
cool
wanted to
lady.
be funny and banter about all sorts of different stuff. And we did have, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I also didn't know what the dynamic was with Remy, Casimir, the other
Yeah,
the other
she was
comic.
I had not met her.
I've met her a couple of times, but we've definitely crossed paths. And I said to her that day afterwards, I was like, I just get the impression you just really fucking don't like me. Because you're kind of cold.
Okay.
And a bit fucking like that.
Yeah.
And she said, oh no, that's just how I am.
You're also very easy to just if you look at you.
To fucking hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But you understand that.
You have a really easy to hate face.
Especially you got a bunch of rings on, you're tall, you're a good looking guy.
What a cunt. I'm such a
If
cunt.
I met you with long hair, I would be like, All right,
I
fine.
know, even worse.
Yeah. But then all you got to do is, and you made judgments on me. No, do it. It's self-soothing. It's not defensive. I need it. But then, it's same thing with anyone. You just got to get to know them, and then
she said to me, I'm like Corinne Fisher. And Corinne is someone who I very much like, and we get on very well now. Guys We Fuck podcast. Corinne and Christina.
Okay, sure, I heard of that.
Christina's overtly kind of like, hey, buddy, and very like, blah, 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 blah. And Corinne's very much like, hey. And you're like, oh, she hates me. She doesn't. She just
She has a wall.
Yeah, it's not even that. I think that's just her personality is a bit more restrained. She's not as... I'm more like Christina Hutchinson.
Yeah.
And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. So I thought Corinne fucking hated me for the longest time. And then we talked, we did the podcast.
Yeah.
She did Guys We Fucked, and she came on this one. And now we're friends, and I really, really value her.
That's one of the things I love about stand-up is that it's like the great equalizer. And if I'm kind of like, I don't know how to think about you going into a thing, if I see you do a great job, especially on a show that maybe you weren't even on at the beginning, and then you come on, you do a little guest spot, and you kill the room, I'll have a greater amount of respect for you, and I'll be much more open to
Of course. Well, also, I think content creators of all kinds, we value giving our time or our energy to people that we think are good at what they do.
For sure. And authentic people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a few friends who I value very, and I obviously won't name names, but a few friends in comedy who I think are incredibly lovely people, and I value and admire who they are as people.
But they're not funny.
But they're not great at what they do. Necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that I think are incredibly talented at what they do and are fucking cockheads. Like, just absolutely cockhead. No one ever says cockhead.
I like it, though. I was ready to hear it.
I didn't know what I was trying to think up. Just absolutely. I was just trying not to say cunt again.
But also, you'll understand that the people who are awesome people, that's a way more valuable trait than to be funny all the time, because you also don't know what part of their journey they're on. If they're an awesome person, but you know that they're the type of person that's out like
never
grinding all the time. No. But like grinding all the time, you can get funnier. Like, I wasn't funny all the time, but I always wanted to be. So I was probably insufferable at certain points in my career or my life.
Yeah.
And people who stuck it out were like, maybe he'll be funny someday.
Yeah.
And now I'm like very confident in who I am, and I've proven to myself that I'm funny, and I don't feel the need to like prove it in conversation.
You're funny as well. Not that you needed to, but I mean, like, no, but honestly, that whole panel, it was weird because of the setup. It was weird because of the concept, the subject matter for the first half an hour.
Yeah.
It was weird because I felt like this Remy girl hated me as soon as I sat down. And then you were really lovely and friendly and being very funny. And then when she was like, oh, well, you're a YouTuber, blah, I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, here we go.
And then you were super funny on that show.
But
I was like, wow, that was really good lines. And then we went to the comedy club. We walked down to the stand, right?
Yeah.
And we both performed. And I came off stage when you came off. Did you go up before me or after?
Before.
And you were really fucking good, dude. And that's when I think I said, "Oh, you should come do the podcast and let's stay in touch." But
dude, you said something. What did you say? You said something right after the show when we were in the elevator, and you were like, I knew you had me pegged as like YouTuber guy who did comedy, which I totally understand where that comes from.
Because they told me you were a YouTuber and you're now doing comedy.
Where it's like, if I think that you think you know me based on that, we have nothing to do with each other. I'm not trying to convince you of anything otherwise. We just happen to be going to a show where I knew that if you watch my set, it would be different. Sure. Then we got in the elevator and you were like, you said something about YouTube comedians, but then you thought I was funny on the show, so you were like, oh, not you, you're an actual comedian. Do you remember what I said back to you?
Yeah, what did you say?
I know. Like you were trying to remind me that I was like, no.
Don't hate yourself for being a YouTuber. It's okay, dude.
Yeah, thank you, dude. You're
okay. Don't worry. Jeff Leach is validated. I was fine without that already.
But do you get that? I'm sure you get people who look at you and you're like,
I get it because of aesthetics straight off the bat. People don't want to find me funny because of the way that I look. And other comedians will treat me with either, well, actually, it's not even whether they treat me with disdain or whatever. Their insecurities very much come into play. Other comics' insecurities come into play when
by the way they treat
me. By the way they treat me. So even if I'm friendly, forthcoming, lovely, and hey, what's going on? A lot of comics will just be like, ugh, yeah.
Dude, so then combine that with, I don't know if I want to give my energy to this person just because I only have so much energy to give.
Well, that's a very mature and developed way of looking at it.
Well, I'm 35.
I'm still, but dude, I'm 36 in a week, and I still care to some degree about what people think of me.
Sure.
Especially
It's not
my
an
peers,
unnatural
especially
thing.
talented peers.
Yeah.
If you're a
Yes.
good
Same.
comedian.
Same.
I want good comedians to go, oh, he's fucking great. He killed. He went up and killed it on that show.
Yeah.
I don't want them to ever go like, oh yeah, he's all rings and fucking open shirts and there's nothing else to him. But I also have stopped caring about moderating the aesthetics.
Yeah.
I did that for the longest time in New York. New York comedy does that to you.
What did it make you change about yourself or want to change about yourself?
When I arrived in New York City, I was wearing sleeveless cuffed shirts open down to here, all the rings, I had the long hair, skinny jeans, all that shit. And over the first 6 months, I got so much shit around the table at the cellar that I started wearing just plain black t-shirts, took all the rings off. I ended up cutting the hair eventually.
Because of that?
Yeah, I really toned down everything aesthetically because I didn't want to rock the boat and I wanted to be at least respected for being a good comic if they weren't going to respect anything else about me.
I have questions for you, but it's your podcast. So
That's
how does
all right.
that
You can
work?
ask that. It's a two-way conversation.
Do you get compared to specific people a lot?
Sure, yeah.
You
At
get
the
Russell
beginning,
Brand a
I got
lot?
Russell Brand in England, and when I came to America with the long hair, I got Russell Brand.
So
Then I got Chris D'Elia for a while,
Yeah.
English Chris D'Elia.
just because you got a beard and long hair.
Exactly. And now it's mostly Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're laughing.
Yeah. I know what I'm laughing.
Henry Cavill.
I don't know that.
When I take my shirt off, Henry Cavill. When I take my shirt off,
Okay, yeah.
he's a Superman, Geralt the Witcher.
I don't watch a lot of stuff, in all honesty. That's why I'm not going to
Very
make it.
attractive guy, Mike. why you not dedicate more of your off time to looking at hot dudes online? I don't know.
I will now, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
What
about
do
you? You get those
I'm
comparisons?
not done with you yet. So, were you at all influenced by Russell Brand?
No. So Russell and I had the same agent in England
okay.
for TV. I did his old show, Big Brother's Big Mouth, that launched him to success. I hosted
Read
that
about
after
that.
him.
I read the first book you book.
Oh, there we go. I read that too. Yeah. Yeah. And I actually identified with a lot of it and I felt very close to him. And we would come into contact with each other a number of times, both in England and in LA. And he was a cunt. I'm very vocal about the fact that I think his whole I'm about peace and oneness, and we're all in a collective, and we need to, mingle our entities and you trust in our higher powers
He's
to
like that
achieve
now.
Yeah. But all of that shit, it's a fucking vehicle for him. He's a two-faced, vindictive, evil piece of shit.
Okay, sure.
And his 12 steps that he professes to have done a number of times are a load of bullshit in the way that he's executed them. I know so many stories and so many of his close friends that were friends of mine as well, and girls, and just things that he's done that just makes me go, he's not a good guy. Now, people can change, and I know he's married now with a kid, so maybe he has calmed, maybe he has changed. But until I have any kind of proof of that,
you gotta see it for yourself.
I'll take it from my personal experiences with him. He was a scumbag, and it was because he was insecure and he felt threatened by a guy 10 years younger than him doing his old TV show.
That's where a lot of this
But that motherfucker was wearing baggy stonewashed jeans and had frosted tips in his hair when he was on MTV.
Oh, shit.
And I was running around Camden in skinny jeans and little waistcoats, DJing at indie rock and roll
But
nights.
because he gets to a certain place first, all of a sudden you're
Well, he had a
compared to-
stylist called Sharon Smith who
Okay.
styled him. She was actually his like personal assistant as well for the few years until he fucked her, and then their whole relationship broke down.
Yeah.
But
Can't have sex with your stylist. Everybody knows that.
he was fucking her, and then they were like best friends before that, and then he was fucking her, and then took her as his personal stylist in LA, and then started sending her out to go and get condoms for him to like fuck other chicks and stuff, to fuck his yoga teacher that week, whoever he was cheating on Katy Perry with that week.
Yeah.
And so like you do things like that. Anyway, but yeah, so I hated those comparisons, but now I'm like, oh, I understand. Of course, people will compare you to other people until you
They just don't want to do the
carved out
work
your
in
own
their
career.
head, especially if they don't know you.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Oh, I recognize that thing. Maybe this thing is like that thing."
Yeah, exactly.
People think because I move my eyebrows, I've been compared to Chris D'Elia because I move my eyebrows on stage, and I'm like, dude, no other comedians. I really like Chris because he was the first person I saw that I was like, he jokes around on stage like I joke around with my friends. So, like, I don't get compared to him very often, but I don't mind it because obviously you try to shed your influence and stuff, but there was a little bit of an influence for sure.
There was, okay.
In the respect that, like,
when did you start stand-up? Officially?
Technically 11 years ago.
Okay.
But I was in Connecticut, and there were, like, not very many chances to get up.
The irony of the fact that you've been doing stand-up longer than me as well, and yet I'm the one going, it's all right, YouTuber.
But also it's like, in full disclosure, I would get up and then not be able to get up for like months.
Sure.
Just because there was no outlet to do it. I would have to get on the train from Connecticut, go to New York City, and that was like an hour and a half trip.
Yeah.
And figure it out for myself down there. Mm-hmm. And then when I came here 7 years ago, that was the start of like the every
Properly
night
doing
type
it, yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Do you prefer the comedy out here or in New York?
I, honest to God, still don't feel like I have the full New York experience. I had it doing music, and I remember that, but it's way different. The comedy scene that I know and love and feel entrenched in is here. So I feel like here is all I know. And then I'm lucky enough to go back, and Chrissy was able to get me that spot on the Stand. Then I go back.
That's the first time you ever performed there?
First time I ever performed. I never got to go to the old one.
Right.
I used to go as a patron to the Cellar all the time, and then I would do bringer shows because I didn't know any better at like Dangerfields or.
You got to do all that shit.
New
You got
York
to go
Comedy
and do all those spots.
But to be able, at the point that I am now, to be able to go to the Stand and then to have the booker take me aside and be like, anytime you want to come back, you come back.
You met Patrick now.
That is like, that feels like validating.
Absolutely.
For me.
Oh, dude, if I'd known that was your first time performing at the venue, I would have dropped Patrick a text and been like, dude, I just seen this guy. He's just crushed it.
I mean, you could still do that. That's nice.
I will.
No,
I will.
kidding.
I was chatting with him over the last couple of days, actually. I got to
Seems
email
like
him
a very
about
nice
some stuff.
guy.
Yeah, he's cool. The world of comedy is so fickle, though. I didn't get booked to that venue for like almost a year. I got booked at the very beginning when I first got to New York.
Yeah.
And then there was a weird tension between the Stand and the Comedy Cellar. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the Comedy Cellar was my home club and they brought me over and all that stuff.
That's so cool, by the way. I have a great admiration for
Thanks,
that.
man.
Yeah.
But because of that, it was funny how even though it opened doorways with other clubs, it also made other people be a bit like, well, you're that kind of comic. You're that comic from there. And so therefore you've got enough with it.
Another
but now,
way that people's insecurity manifests itself in
I think
casual
so.
conversation.
I've actually never had the full conversation with him, for instance, as one particular example, about like, hey, dude, it's great that you're booking me now. Like, I do a show there. I produce a show there now as well.
Yeah, cool.
And I fucking love the venue, and he and I have a great relationship. But I've never actually gone like, hey, why didn't you book me for that year? Because A, I think it doesn't matter, in hindsight. And B, I think I already know the answer. He didn't know me.
They got to know you, man. They got to know you and they got to want you to be there.
Well, he'd booked me in for shows, but I think he had a weird kind of like, oh, this guy looks like a douchebag.
Sure.
And then decided I was a douchebag. And then it took a year and something, which I won't go into, but a personal thing where I helped one of his staff members out. Mm-hmm. And after that, he heard about that or knew about that. And I think he went, oh, I got this guy completely wrong.
Yeah.
And so
it's
then
almost like they got to think you're a certain caliber of funny and then a certain caliber of person as well. And that's, you can't show somebody that in a month. Unless like somebody who they respect at the utmost, at the highest level walks you in and is like, this guy.
Well,
dude,
fame and success trump everything in the world of comedy, in the world of, entertainment in general.
That's true. That stamp, as soon as somebody, I talk about it all the time.
How the fuck does Piven get stage time?
I don't want to talk about that.
No?
I know we had the whole conversation before. What do you want to talk about? What do you not want to talk about?
You don't want to talk about Jeremy Piven?
Because I find myself in a position where it's like, I just
still want to fuck him a little bit.
Still want to fuck him.
He's very, there's something about his rude, self-centered, obnoxious attitude that means I really want to hate fuck him.
I've never seen him on stage, but I know what all my friends think of him. And I know that I get from people who book rooms that have had not great experiences with him. I don't like when people who have the world at their fingertips treat people who don't like shit. And I've heard stories. I've never seen it firsthand, but I've heard stories, and I don't like that. And it makes
I've never heard him being rude. I've gigged with him on a few shows, and he always turned out and was reasonably polite and stuff. I've never seen him.
To you?
Yeah.
A comic. A fellow comic.
Oh, first of all, I am a comic. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, this is where my issue with him comes. Is I look, legal side of things, until the man is proven guilty of committing a crime against any of the women who allege things. I think it should go through due process, and if he hasn't been proven to do anything, then why am I going to tell him that he's guilty of something that he's not? However, I do loathe the concept of someone in their industry going, well, I'm not going to get booked now because there's a few allegations flying around surrounding me, and
use it as like
so I'll just do a bit of fucking stand up. That's an easy route for me to make some money, but it's almost like,
and then you come into a pool of people where that's their whole life, and that's what they dedicate
their fucking craft.
Move 3,000 miles away from their family to do a thing.
Thank you. It just felt like it was like a fallback option for him, and I hated that. And I've seen him do stand up, and it's all right. It's whatever. It's not great.
Sure.
It's not great. It's a famous person doing a decent open mic set.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to talk about in terms of comedians, we'll move on from Piven. Didn't even know why he came up. Just because I've always got him on the brain. I do really want to fuck him. There is something about that. I want to pick him up.
At least you know what it is.
I just want to pick him up and throw him against the wall. I heard
he does dress
I heard he's
very
into
nice.
Oh man. I want to talk about Ari Shaffir.
Okay.
Because this is I've not had an opportunity to have a conversation about what's just happened with anyone yet. Yeah. And especially not someone in the comedy community that I respect. So, so just to set the back tone for people who haven't heard about it, obviously Kobe Bryant passed away. Horrendous accident. Infinitely more sad, made more sad and miserable by the fact that his 13-year-old daughter was on the helicopter, really, and another little girl and her parents. Like, it was just a miserable fucking situation. Something that shouldn't happen to anyone. Ari Shaffir made a joke on Twitter about it. Had a huge amount of, and it was very the construct of the piece that he wrote, the tweet he wrote, was very much not a well-crafted joke. It was very much just like, fuck Kobe, he should have died 23, he just died 23 years too late,
Like there was no joke part of it.
Yeah, there was no real joke part of it, fuck the Lakers, blah, 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 blah. Now...
which I understand, I don't know.
Well, first thing is, that's not his joke. That's not what the joke was. The joke is that Ari Shaffir, every single time a notable celebrity dies,
he'll come in with it.
He makes a horrendous line or joke about it immediately. Like the minute he hears about it, he goes straight on Twitter and writes a horrendous, mean-spirited, shitty post about that person to kind of mock the idolizing of celebrities that we're quite guilty of as a global community now, to point out that no one is any better or any worse than anyone else. We've all got our own skeletons in the fucking closet, including these superstar celebrities. And just because they're dead doesn't mean suddenly they're a hero to you, and how people pander and fawn over people once they're gone. Posthumously, we'll celebrate anyone, for the most part, unless they were a Weinstein or whatever.
Sure.
So that's what the joke is. He constantly does this. That's the joke. I always say something shitty about people's celebrities' deaths. But he also didn't dig into the research even remotely enough to see what the nature of the death was, and that there was a couple of little girls involved in there, and that there was, all these horrendous extra additions.
Yeah.
If Kobe had been driving his car and plowed into a fucking wall and he made that joke, there still would have been backlash, but infinitely less.
Right, different situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what has happened since then is that he's had death threats, multiple death threats. His grandmother, his mother, and father's houses, all of their addresses have been released online. Oh, wow. People were making comments like, I hope someone goes around there and fucks her up, about his grandmother in Malibu and shit like that. Like really bad, mean, nasty shit. People have been phoning his family's phones and threatening them. And then he had tour dates where people were phoning up the comedy clubs and saying, if you put him on your lineup or you let him perform, I'm going to come down with guns and shoot up everyone in that audience.
Jesus Christ.
So terrorist threats.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Mike Falzone?
Oh, come on. You're going to leave me there?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the background for everyone. I'm interested to hear what other people think about it,
I don't know, man. I honestly feel like it's not my place to say whatever about anyone.
This is not about Ari. This is about comedy, free speech, jokes
sure.
versus reactions to those jokes, and where are we allowed to get upset about the reaction versus, you know.
I think maybe that's a personal thing and you're allowed to get however upset you want. All I could say is that, like, for me personally, I didn't think it was very funny, and then I didn't pay attention to it, and then it really didn't have any kind of effect on my day, you know?
You sound like a balanced individual, Mike.
Well, I'm not really in the business of, I could recognize wrongdoing. Here's what I got the most bummed out about.
Okay.
If this dude is saying this stuff about this horrendous thing that happened to a father and a sports legend and his child online where everybody could see it, and then his remaining children go to school and have to deal with that about the loss of their father and their sister or whatever, then that's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about that, but I do know that I don't like that. But also, I just didn't pay attention. I didn't give it any of my energy. As comedians, we need people to pay attention to us, and we need people to give us their energy. Those are the people who give us their money and come to shows, and enough people stop paying attention to you, then it just ends.
Yeah.
And I think the worst punishment you could do to a comedian is not like shoot up their grandmother's house. It's to just stop paying attention to them.
Yeah.
And
stop going to see his shows. Stop
yeah.
letting, you know.
Yeah. And I'm like, what good is it gonna? He gets shot. What good is that gonna do?
Yeah, well, they go, that's revenge for him saying shit about this guy dying. Now
but
he's
then,
dead.
like,
How
where
does
does
that
it
feel?
stop?
Oh no, I know. It's absolutely fucking mental.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're at this place right now, certainly in comedy and in the comedy community. A number of comedians called him out.
Yeah.
And added fuel to the fire, going, yeah, fuck Ari Shaffir, his jokes shit, that whole stick of shit, he's a talentless hack, blah, 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 blah. Now, first of all, to every single one of those comedians, I want them to pull their fucking virtue signaling heads out their own asses for a second to acknowledge a couple of things. Ari Shaffir is neither a hack nor a failure.
Well, he wouldn't have gotten any audience at all if he was bad at comedy.
He's a hugely successful comedian.
That's what I'm saying.
With
it's like the
a
people...
TV show called This Is Not Happening that he fucking
Right.
curated and created that's widely successful. He tours to sell out audiences all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
So to call him a hacker or a talentless fucking idiot is just, first of all, you're just categorically wrong.
Yeah.
But it's this split between... It's a very difficult position to be in because one side of me is a massive advocate for free speech in comedy. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you make a joke and if the joke is distasteful and is designed for an audience that likes distasteful comedy, which is his audience, if it's people who like to hear the worst possible shit that you can say, which is definitely what a lot of his material is skewed around that, and it has an audience, a huge audience.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, no joke should be met with, I'm going to go and shoot your fucking family, or I'm going to come and carry out an act of terrorism when
Because
you're
it's
shot.
like, he made a bad joke that was terrible, but if you threaten his grandmother with violence, it's like, who is better?
Exactly. I mean,
know?
yeah. Absolute scumbags. But that's people with 3 brain cells, barely enough to rub together. Those people will make comments like that or say things like that. I'm sure a lot of them were fucking 15-year-old kids just making nasty phone calls.
Sure.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
But very scary when your family's being threatened with violence because of a joke you made online.
When yes, for sure. God, bringing people in the family that aren't involved in it.
My grandparents already dead. Do you know what I mean? My
so-
mum and dad don't even really like me.
Thank
so
goodness.
I'm covered. People start threatening my parents. I'd be like, don't threaten them. They don't even fucking like me. They'll join the mob.
But super scary to be a performer where your income is based on here are my live dates. Here's where I'm going to be every day this year. If I say something terrible, here's where I am.
I had a little spat online recently with a small group of people.
I thought you were just going to say a race after that.
With an entire race.
Maybe you've heard of them. They're called the
whites.
Irish.
They're called the white people. Me and the whites don't see eye to eye on a number of things.
And they all know where I'm going to be.
No, but dude, honestly, I defended Michael Che. He had a spat with some fucking, I'm not even gonna say the guy's name. I can barely remember. I can't remember what his surname is. Anyway, some fucking failed hack failed comedian, doesn't do stand-up anymore, clearly couldn't cut the fucking, couldn't cut it in the industry, and now writes shitty think pieces on blogs, to mostly taking down other comedians. That's his shtick. Anyone who does that for a living, you got to look at your fucking self in the mirror, which he clearly doesn't do enough based on the images I saw of him, and he could do with, trying to better himself in every fashion. This motherfucker, I stood up for Michael Che and just went, it's never like the fucking super successful, super hot, super charming comedians that are attacking their peers in the industry, is it? It's always the failed fucking hacks who've got something to write, except a good joke, right? And this guy got really upset and sent his community across, and, every single one of his community were a bunch of fucking neckbeards, that blah, 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 blah. Just weird fucking... fuck you, man. Anyway, three of his followers were very adamant. They were very, very aggressive and very online. And I said, and maybe it wasn't the best idea, but I said, well, listen, I'm open to debate this with anyone, like to my thoughts, and I'll explain to you exactly why I think the way I am. But if you threaten me online, come to my show. Here's the date. So I gave him the date. I said, I got a show tomorrow night. It's here. It's at this time.
Yeah.
The show
I have
is
to bring 10 people.
If you want to have a fight, bring 10 of your friends there. Preferably don't.
2-drink minimum.
Exactly. Yeah. But seriously, I was just like, if you want to debate this, you probably don't want to come see my comedy, but the show finishes at 9. I'm more than welcome to come down to the venue and I'll have a conversation with you in person about this. Like, you threatening me online doesn't mean a fucking thing to me. Sure. Come down and talk to me. Yeah. Pull up.
Yeah.
Anyway, all these three people, I had a little back and forth, and I even sent them little DMs, and I went, hey, just to remind you, here's the date, here's the venue, this is when it is, and I'll be outside after this
you
time.
Send them the flyer for the show?
Dude, yeah. And it was these three guys. Unsurprisingly, not one of them turned up. So I took the time out to unblock all three of them to send them another personal message going, you didn't pull up. Every time you go to bed, just imagine my face leaning over you, whispering into your ear, you're a bitch. Every morning and every night, right? And I said that through. Now, I'm laughing about it now because it's funny. It's funny to troll the trolls, right? Yeah. It's funny to do that. There's two parts to my thought, though, is as a comedian, I really do think if you're willing to hide behind a handle, and every single one of these guys, most of them is like a weird little avatar picture or like a hidden face or whatever. They're all those kind of guys. Even the fucking super right-wing ones.
Yeah,
it's them with a gun and a fucking handkerchief around their face. Acting like they're big tough guys or whatever the fuck it is. But I'm going, calm down. Come down, motherfucker. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. If that's really what you want to do, you want to argue. I haven't got time for it here, but I will have time for it tonight after my show.
But wouldn't it be cool if they came and legit just talked?
Oh, wonderful.
And you could understand everything about each other.
Well, here's the
and
deal, man.
And it immediately goes to I'll come down with a knife.
There you go. This is why they would never do that, because if they came down and had a conversation, first of all, they're going to look up into my 6'4" face and they're going to go, okay, maybe a fight's not a great idea. Let me just tell this guy, by the way, Jeff, I think you're a fucking bitch. And I go, okay, why do you think I'm a bitch? And I would have a conversation with
you. And then they have to explain why.
Yeah, I go tell me what it is that you're so fucking angry about that you had to give me that vitriol online.
Yeah.
Now, from all the good supporters, the feedback on those things is don't engage with those people. So even to Ari, it's like he's definitely taken the thing of just going, look, he explained himself on Instagram, he put a few posts and went, fuck the world, blah, 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 see you later, this is how I feel, fuck the Lakers, I'm sorry that I didn't know that his daughter was involved in the crash, I didn't know there were other people. When I saw it, I just saw the news article, Kobe dies in helicopter crash, and I put my joke out on Twitter.
Right.
So it's like, and I don't make jokes like that, but I do think that if you're willing to threaten people online, pull up, or you should really be taken to task. Like you should, there should be some kind of criminal process. If you tell someone, I'm going to come to your fucking show and shoot you and your fans, you should have a fucking knock on the door from the police later on.
Yeah.
Because it's his words. Sorry, I didn't keep cutting you off.
No. I was just agreeing.
Just going to say, if Ari's words, and don't get me wrong, I think the joke was shit. I don't like his joke. Yeah. I don't follow Ari, even though I think he's a very talented comedian. I don't follow him because his humor is not my type of humor. We
also know as comedians, I mean, it's an extreme example of this, but not everyone is going to work.
Of course.
It's a very extreme example of that. But
yeah, we throw shit out all the time, hoping something sticks against the wall. Do you know what I mean? Trying to find that viral hit, trying to find that viral tweet or that viral fucking video.
I'm not defending it either. I didn't like it either, but it's like
no, but that's but like you said, so well balanced. I didn't like it. It's not for me. So I just ignored it and moved on with my life and just...
I think about the worst thing that happens to us or me at this stage of my career is if I say, I'm going to do a show in Florida and then no one in Florida shows up. That's the worst punishment that there could be.
Yeah.
You know, so the more people you turn off in a really, in the part of them that connects with you, that's tough to get back once you turn that off.
The thing is, though, with someone like Ari especially,
I'm sure there's a group of people that eat it up.
Was that so for every 10 people that are telling him he's a scumbag and he's going to get shot in the back of the head, there's definitely another 10 who are going, fuck yeah, Ari, stick it to man, free speech, let's do it. Can't wait to see your show. Like his career is going to be fine. That's what they don't realize. It's just all they're doing is. My point was that I think if people are professing that the words of a comedian online have so much power in people's lives to cause hurt and upset and misery and really put this vitriol into this family that's going through what is a despicable situation no family should ever have to go through. That mother and the rest of the kids, no mother should outlive their child.
Ever.
Miserable. But if that's what they're suggesting, then their words, I'm going to come and fucking stab you at your next show.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to come down and shoot your shit. Their words should hold that same weight.
Dude, so what I was saying to my wife, we talked about this very little bit on our podcast, was because it's America and because you have free speech, you can go back and say your own shit and give him a threatening message and do all the work to find his family's addresses and personal information. You could take less energy and look up a donation fund or something like that. But like literally you could put less energy into it and tweet out, instead of saying, I'm going to kill you and your whole family, tweet out a link. I'm going to send your grandmother
some non-kosher bacon.
No, it has nothing to do with like Ari or Ari's grandmother or whatever. If you really want to help the situation, instead of attacking Ari, ignore it, which already hurts, and then say, here's where you could donate to help the family. Or something like that.
Sure.
It's like, because people have to get their anger out about Ari, you could just flat out like, imagine the kid, making a big fuss at a birthday party. Just turn your back to the kid making the big fuss at the birthday party. Be like, this is how we could help the unfortunate.
Well, you're giving like considerate dad advice now. Which is, they're just doing it because they are. Ignore them. Don't give them the energy. Blah, blah. Which is incredibly hard to put into practice. I'm just looking at cold, hard facts that if people are professing that the words of a comedian online have damaged their lives so deeply, then they should be held accountable for their responses. You telling someone, I'm going to go and fuck your grandmother, or I'm going to come and put a bullet in the back of your head and all your fans at your show.
Yeah.
You should get a knock on the door from the police.
Yeah, because it's a threat, man.
Yeah, man. Like, fuck that shit. And it's. I don't like I'm not defending his joke.
Yeah.
I think it's a shit joke. I don't like that. I don't like the fucking comedy. It's not for me.
In the same way that telling somebody you're going to kill their grandmother is not for you either.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But also I do think, in my own personal experience, if you tell me you're going to fuck me up, or you think oh, look at this faggy Brit, blah, 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 I can fuck him up. I go like, pull up then. Pull up, bitch. And you didn't. All three of you. Not one of you did.
Well, that's what it used to. When I think about being in grade school or being in high school, if you had a problem with somebody, especially like from where I'm from and my upbringing. Fuck them up after school. Not only that, but it's like kiss them on the lips. You kiss them right on the lips. You look in their eyes and no one closes their eyes. The first person to close their eyes loses, dude.
Yeah. That's the best way to diffuse every angry situation.
If you're in middle school or high school and I walk up to you and I say, if you have something to say about me, what is the next thing out of my mouth?
Oh, wait, if I'm going to say something.
If I say,
say it to my face.
Say it to my face.
Say it to my face, bitch.
That's
say
the
it to
thing.
My face.
Because it's so easy to just sit in the comfort of your own home and to say whatever you want.
You're a fucking YouTuber. Yeah. You and Logan Paul can all suck a fat dick.
Me and Logan Paul, we're the same guy.
How do you do you have like good friends in the YouTuber community?
Very few, but some people who have been like, I've been doing it since YouTube was a website. Like in January of 2006. Still a website.
Not the biggest media sharing website though. I mean, you're talking old school, right?
Yeah, I mean, since its inception, I've been on it.
Do you know, I feel like you get on really well with Harley Morenstein. You know that guy?
A lot of people say that. I've never met him. We
He's a good dude.
Follow each other on Twitter. We have a lot of mutual friends. A lot of people say that we'd get along.
I met him the same time. I actually became friends with another guy I met. We went to a WWE event. We got invited to something, whatever. And
don't brush it off like it's nothing.
No,
That's
but
fucking awesome.
it was Raw. It was like WWE Raw, some event here in LA.
Yeah.
And I went, but I was invited because I was going with my buddy who owns a big esports organization, and apparently they wanted to put money into his org.
Okay.
But I met him, and he was wonderful. Seemed very charming and funny. And also Matt Santoro. I mean, and he's become a good friend. But there's a community of fucking drama as well. YouTubers.
That's why I don't really talk to many
tiring.
people. I mean, same thing with comedians. It's like I have my crew of people. There's so many people who I'm very good acquaintances with, but very few people who I consider like best friends. And the older I get, I'm not trying to sound like a fucking, old fuddy-duddy or...
Pretty much everything you've said so far on the podcast has been dad advice. Are you broody? Have you got kids?
No, not yet.
It's time you impregnated your wife, dude.
You know what? I appreciate that advice. And we'll see if I get enough money to do that comfortably, to impregnate my wife comfortably. But I just don't... The older I get...
you need to raise the child. You don't need money to impregnate her. Just need a fucking...
That's not what she said. Yeah, flat service.
You just need a flat service.
I don't know, man. It's the older I get, my number of very, very, very good friends, people drop off all the time and you don't line up and your beliefs don't match up with other people, your value, you have different work ethics or whatever. And people who I thought I was very close with drop off for one reason or another.
You and Tana Monjong are was super tight.
Who's that? Oh, the blonde lady.
Yeah, the blonde lady.
Yeah.
Lady that's the first time I think she's been referred to as a lady by anyone, but
I don't know, man. I don't, that's maybe I'm too, I've just been on the internet too long, but I just don't care what anybody does. I care about like
you don't
me
keep
and
as
my
part
wife.
of that ecosystem of YouTubers.
I don't as a detriment to myself, because I could make a video and be like, "This is what I think of Logan Paul," and put Logan Paul in the thumbnail,
sure,
and just get all the fucking be in the suggested videos. I have good friends in that community that I value their opinion very much, who are doing great, really smart business people, saying. There's this whole genre of video where people play like a Logan Paul video,
reaction or review,
and talk
videos,
about how fucking stupid it is, and they make their jokes or whatever, and because it's them and Logan Paul in the thumbnail, they get millions of views.
Yeah, he's just.
And I had a friend be like, "You have to do that. You're funnier than all these people, and you could do such a better job." And then I'm like, but then I'm talking about people I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'd
much
rather
come on a podcast and then have the host systematically make me talk about every single person in the industry.
I'm talking about it because we're having a nice conversation. But I'm never gonna, on my own channel where I can control everything I want to do. I'd much rather go to a show, try out a new joke, see why it doesn't work, go home, drink a cup of coffee, rewrite it, and then have it kill a week later. That is the most productive shit I could do. That has nothing to do with anybody else.
Absolutely.
Nothing to do with Ari, nothing to do with Louis C.K., nothing to do with any of the Paul family, Tana, anybody.
Yeah.
All of that is stuff that me and you could control.
Well, you also, by doing that, you don't let your content be solely focused on realistically some negativity, which is most of that content is that. I'm not going to deny that I watch review or reaction channels, but I like watching the ones, I like The Right Opinion, for instance. He's a British guy and he does 30 to 1 hour long videos, 30 minute to 1 hour long videos on a subject matter, and it's incredibly balanced. He will look at it from the protagonist, the protagonist of the story's point of view, from what he's heard. He does deep research. It's just his voice. He's not like a smash like, subscribe. He doesn't do any of that shit. He's very much just going, right, today I'm going to be talking about Logan Paul, his rise to success and what happened. And then he'll really break it down. Yeah. And I like watching him because he's actually been a guest on the podcast because he's very eloquent, interesting, and balanced. But then I'm not going to deny that, I didn't love, Hate Street videos and iDubbbz videos. Like,
sure,
there's a lot of that content that makes me laugh an awful lot.
Yeah.
But I am, you're basically sort of outlining almost like the successful longevity of career versus clout in the short term. Mm-hmm. I think if your whole business...
I think because I've seen so much of it. Like, I've seen people shoot straight up and then come straight down.
Yeah.
And I'm still
Grade
around.
A,
And
under A,
my
that guy is
videos,
good.
my views aren't what they were, but I can look back at everything and be so proud of it.
Okay.
You know?
What is the kind of content that you enjoy making most on your network and your channel?
When it started, it was music stuff and then covers to kind of gain just audience.
Sure, of course.
People who, you know, grab people with a wider net. And now it's just like things that I think are really funny. For a long time, when I was at my most popular on YouTube, I was giving like funny tongue-in-cheek advice videos.
Okay.
But it was always like, I had some near-death experiences in my life. I got really sick, and I wasn't sure if I went into the hospital if I was going to come out.
What did you
So
have?
you come. There was one time where they caught appendicitis too late, and it turned into like a sepsis of my entire body, and then I had a blood clot in my lung.
Did you have it removed? Your appendix removed?
Yeah, for sure. And then the blood clot thing was super scary because I was like, it was in my lungs, which is an end organ.
Did you have them removed?
I was in intravenous. I had both of my lungs removed, and then I was intravenous blood thinners. I was on blood thinners for years.
Jesus, so no appendix.
I only have 6
lungs.
organs.
You better hope you never get a fucking case of chlamydia.
They
Otherwise,
let me have my eyes, and they let me have my stomach and my colon. I have most of my colon.
Thank God you're married, because if you caught an STD,
Yeah. Oh, my dick has been gone for a long time. Yeah. But when I got out of there, my big thing was I remember being in a hospital bed and not knowing if I was going to come out of the hospital. I was tethered to this bed by 4 IVs, and I was like maybe 26. And I was like, dude, outside of here, all of my friends from high school are like getting promotions and buying their first houses. And
at 26?
At 26 and getting married. And I was like, I'm in this hospital bed. So when I came out, I was like, I'm going to be funny and I'm going to keep doing all this stuff. And if there's anything I could say in these videos to save someone younger and less experienced than me a little time's the most valuable thing that any of us have.
Yeah.
So I would try to do these things that were funny and save people time. And that was my absolute favorite. And then I, tried this craft of stand-up comedy. So now it's the first craft. I remember I stopped doing music because I plateaued. Right. And I knew I didn't want to try to get any better. I was just trying to do what I could with the skills that I had. But at comedy, it's like I never want to stop getting better. And I've never had that with anything before.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you discovered it, and you're good at it, so it's good that you discovered it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who go into comedy who really fucking shouldn't. Have you found
they'll figure it out.
I was going to say, have you found there's any kind of... Because obviously, look, in a very personal basis, when I first met you and we talked and she said YouTuber and blah, a little part of my brain, of course, had that kind of, all right. Okay.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a regular occurrence? You have to constantly...
When I first moved out here, man, it's like you got to do so much work to even have people think of you. Everyone had that. Everyone in the comedy community had that. And it would get to the point where people would come up to me after shows, like established comedians, be like, I've never heard of you before, but you're pretty good on stage. Wasn't as good as I am now, but pretty good.
Sure.
And they'd be like, where are you? Were you in the scene in New York and just came over? And I would have to say like, no, I came out here because I gained some momentum on YouTube. And I swear to God, man, you could watch the respect drip off of people's faces.
See, that's retarded, because I think if someone... No, I mean, no, we're not allowed to say that word anymore. But I mean, it's true. It's slow of mind to think that way. Not disabled, retarded, very different things. But it is, because there's an element of... For me, it works the other way. That if I might have a preconception, but I try and bury that these days. I try not to have preconceptions about people until I've seen them work in the way that they say they can. And then you doing well on stage immediately removes any doubts that I might have had about your ability to be a good stand-up comedian.
Right.
Whereas I think if someone hears that and have seen you do well and then hears your YouTuber and then dismisses you, that's probably more born out of their frustrations.
For sure.
Oh, here's a multi-talented
but you still
motherfucker,
have to deal
and
with
I've only
it.
got... I'm struggling at my one thing, you know what I mean?
Right. But some of those people are bookers and shit like that. So it's like, it doesn't matter when they decide to have their preconceived notions. They see you do good and they're like, oh, you're a YouTube person. I've had so many terrible experiences with YouTube people coming through the club and either being rude or not being able to do an hour or whatever. And then I used to get upset when they put me in a category with someone who could sell out the building but has only been doing stand-up for 6 months.
Right. Yeah,
then I'm like, we're separate, man. So I haven't called myself a YouTuber in years because I'm
doing it for you online.
I appreciate that so much.
That's what it's going to be. This is going to be the
Welcome
YouTuber.
To the 3 Steps Back podcast.
YouTuber and nothing else ever.
Right. But it's like, you work so hard to work off a certain stigma or whatever. And I was on that site trying to be an artist before the word YouTuber was even in anyone's vernacular.
Yeah.
Like people try to be YouTubers now, where I was a musician. I was an artist wanting to make stuff for a big group of people.
Benefit of a platform where you could share that music with a bigger audience.
Right. I never wanted to come on and be like, make sure you hit that bell. Make sure you subscribe, all the good business things that you have to do to keep the business going. I wanted to go on there, talk about what I wanted to talk about, legitimately save some people time. And of course it was like to gain a fan base and stuff like that. It wasn't, I'm not this virtuous whatever. I always wanted to go out and to perform for the maximum amount of people. But what happens when you're as true to yourself as you possibly can is you get this like following, even though it might be smaller, it's a strong following of people who will be passionate and get it.
I can't remember who said it. I probably should look up the quote. But some famous artist of some kind at some point made the comment, all you ever need to have a really successful career for the rest of your life is like 100,000.
Yeah.
Hardcore. Like 100,000 people who
I think it's 1,000.
I mean, realistically, around the world, if you're traveling in our industry,
100,000 is so much around the world. I mean,
I
like suppose.
When you think about, like, look, touch wood,
dude, you need 10 strong fans.
I got a few to carry your coffin down the aisle of the church. Yeah, what I mean is, like, I think if this is what I would like. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have to have garnered the success and the respect of millions of people around the world for the work that I do, and I hope that I will do that. But I also know that shit's fleeting. When you're on the latest Marvel movie as an actor, or you're the face of this new thing, or whatever the fuck it may be, you might have. When I was on BBC doing big TV shows on BBC, I did have hundreds of thousands of fans. Unfortunately, this was in the days of MySpace when it first started.
Yeah.
And how did that work out for me?
So they're all dead now.
Well, I mean, yeah, apparently all their accounts are. The transition from that to Facebook, and then Facebook limited you to 5,000 people you were allowed. So I had to open up. At one point I had like 15 or 16 pages and was just accepting friend requests on all the different pages to try and get all the fans in one place. And then they made it possible to merge 2 pages. So that's why my fan page now sits at like 10,000.
Yeah.
Because that's the culmination of 2 of those pages that I was able to form into one thing.
Sure.
And all the rest I just had to close down multiple accounts. Some of them got closed down because they just thought they were fake because of names and stuff.
Yeah.
But
the trials and tribulations of coming up with the internet.
Dude, the timing for my career has been incredibly fucking frustrating. But that's okay. That's
but also,
the way
like,
it is.
Not all frustrating. You go through the bumps, but it's also like you have this podcast where we could sit and talk in your apartment.
I haven't had a normal job since I was 18 years old, and I've worked all the time and I've made money through my creative passions to live. That's a success in its own right. And I'm happy with that. But I also think that rather than getting on a show and blowing up and getting like millions of fans, let's say I have
easy
a million
come, easy
followers,
go, man.
I'd rather have 100,000 who fucking love what I do, because they will buy your albums, come and buy tickets to your shows, tell their friends, show your videos, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.
They'll even smash it if they have to.
Sometimes they'll smash it. Who's smashing their keyboard? You know what I mean? Just fucking.
I hate all of it. But do you ever get people who come to your shows and been like, I've been following your career for 10 years?
Yeah.
Is there anything better than that?
No, it's amazing. But I also I'm very knowledgeable now about who my hardcore fans are and who my hardcore fans are that support everything I do. So I have a lot of people who will be like, oh God, in fact, I had one message today from a girl just going like, oh, I can't believe you're doing a European tour. When are you going to be in London? Which is great. I'm like going, oh yeah, I'm going to be here this time around, blah, blah, blah. It's in May. We just finalized a couple of dates. Oh, amazing. Can't wait to be there. So that's great. They're going to buy some tickets to my show. But I was also like, I got a podcast as well. In the meantime, that comes out all the time. It comes out every week, and check that out. And she's like, oh wow, I didn't know. And it's just certain fans only can tap into certain shit you do.
Sure, you got to be where they're comfortable being.
Yeah,
not everyone is going to want to watch your videos and listen to your podcast and come to your shows.
The only issue is with some of the fans, they will support you. They'll always check in on what you're doing, but supporting you financially isn't or hasn't thus far been an option for a lot of fans.
Well, not everybody's in the position to.
Sure. But everyone's in the position, at least I know from a lot of these people, they're in the position to go out and buy fucking 7 or 8 drinks on a Friday night. One of those drinks costs $5 or $8 if you live in LA or New York. You know what I mean? So one of those drinks could be a $5.
Have one less drink a month.
Do you know what I mean? Literally,
Yeah.
if every single one of the people that listen to the podcast, for instance, donated $1, I'd have $51,000 coming in a month.
Dude, that was the old YouTube thing. When people started blowing up and getting like 80,000 views, they would make a video and be like, if all of you just gave $1, I could have $80,000.
But the quickest way to not get any money out of people is to ask for money, first of all.
Yeah. But you don't want to ask for money. You want to tell them what you're going to do with the money.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm going to hire a producer, guys. I'm going to hire a producer.
Dude, me and Zoya have a podcast, and they see...
Who's that?
What happens? Me and my wife.
Oh, okay.
And we have a Patreon is what I meant.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the only thing I've ever had a Patreon is just this one podcast with me and my wife. And
nice.
they see where it goes, and they see us working harder and trying to up the production value. It's a lot of sex stuff. Buying me more
freezing
organs.
Some eggs because apparently Mike's not ready to impregnate her yet.
I don't know what I'm going to do about that.
I'm sorry, Zoe. I tried. She sent me a text before.
Let's bring her out. So
here she is. And here she is right now in my bedroom, ready. I've given you the surface and everything. Dude,
comes out with a turkey baster.
It's so nice to talk to you. I wish, I almost, on reflection, I wish we'd spend less time talking about Ari Shaffir and free speech and comedy.
Next time we won't talk about Ari Shaffir at all.
No. I feel like there's more that I wanted to... we're at an hour, so we'll wrap it, but I do want to have you on again because I think there's so much more that I want to learn about your take on comedy, and I think you have a very unique take. I've never had a YouTuber who is doing stand-up comedy come on the podcast. And
that's because you hate those people.
It's because I
get it. You don't have to.
There's only a small number there's a small number that I actually have had the opportunity to see do stand-up and respect what they do and think, they're dedicated to the craft, as you are, and as you have proven to be very directly when I saw you on stage. So thanks for taking some time out, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
YouTube channel is
just Mike Falzone. It's just Mike Falzone.
Falzone. Mike, M-I-C-K, obviously. M-I-K-E, sorry.
Obviously.
Mick Falzone.
The
Go check out
Italian
Mick, see if he exists.
Yeah.
There's got to be a Mick Falzone that fucking hates you. Make sure you check out Mike Falzone on YouTube as well. Give him support over there. Check out the podcast as well. So the one with your wife.
Dynamic Banter with me and Steve, me and my wife is Welcome to Our Podcast.
And these are available on all platforms, I'm assuming, across the board. Spotify, iTunes,
you know
Google
what?
Play.
Me and Zoya's aren't on Spotify, but it's on SoundCloud and Apple whatever, and it's on a lot of other ones.
On iTunes.
Yeah.
And then also, I would encourage people to go and see you live because there's no better proof of a comedian's ability than paying some money. Go and throw $10 into a comedy venue. Go support live comedy and go and see Mike live because he's very, very talented.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. And I shall see you in the future.
For sure.
Take care, bro.
Yeah.
Thank
on
you,
camera handshake.
On camera handshake.